Brought to you by Tella Health, a virtual assistant staffing company for professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall. I am the host of The Faces, Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founding CEO of Tella Health, a virtual staffing organization, and the here-in sponsor of my podcast. So thank you, Tella Health, for allowing me the opportunity to talk to great people like David. David, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm ready to knock out this one. I've looked forward to our conversation ever since our prep call. So I'm really excited to dive into, who's David. So one thing I like to do when we first start off, because I've been known to get down rabbit holes, all right? But before we get too deep, tell us, who is David Holt? Who are we talking with here today?
Yeah, well, attorney, entrepreneur, dad. I'm currently in California, so we got I love to travel. That's really high level. My big thing is just making an impact on the broken U.S. healthcare system. So however I can do that, whether it's a startup or my law practice, that's me in a nutshell.
No, well, I've tried to fix broken healthcare once. Don't think it went that well, but it went well enough to sell, right? It's well enough to sell, not well enough to fix the machine. Tell me, what part of healthcare specifically are you functioning in?
Yeah, so I mean, up in the U.S., it's expensive, it's broken, it's 6-minute increments, kind of like big law. Big healthcare is just it's sick care. It's not really focused a little bit more upstream on the stuff that I like, kind of the wellness, good old fashioned sleep, diet, exercise, and mindfulness. So I mean, at the end of the day, I think bringing in more small businesses, more entrepreneurs that are kind of thinking a little bit differently, kind of like us, and are bringing new ideas in, and also just, I think, heavily invested in their first round of patients, their clients, whatever they identify, is going to make better outcomes. So it's an easy horse to get behind for me, bringing in more little small businesses or entrepreneurs, whether they're disruptive or just a medical doctor kind of leaving the big system, starting their own thing. And then around the edges, I mean, I have some, just like training templates. I'm just trying to kind of bring the cost down for the traditional healthcare business world of what you would need to get started in that arena. So that's where I'm kind of taking a chip at the big healthcare right now.
It's so interesting. The first healthcare startup I was involved in is where I've never been in healthcare before. And I went to work for this non-traditional primary care practice that also did some coordination with care, and learning a little bit more about it. It was shocking to me at that time, California as well, that when folks went into the doctor, especially if they're on Medicare or Medicaid, they were really limited to one chronic illness conversation. And so if you came in for COPD, right, we're talking about COPD. We're not talking about your back pains or other ailments that aren't related to that, because we only have 15 minutes, right? And they're doing as you say, they're doing the churn and burn, right? The more you see, the more you get, versus like, oh, really, I hope that Cody Hall stays healthy and is healthy, and then I'm rewarded as a physician for his healthiness. And I saw that as a surprise. And then you go to the doctor, you really don't think about the economics of it ever. But the way that the economics of U.S. healthcare is set up, it's really set up to just see you, to not make you better. It's what this guy said once, Gray Miller said, it's set up for the generally well. It's not set up for the generally sick.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if we're looking at strictly as a business, a patient or consumer that goes in once, twice, and kind of figures it out and actually maybe does some of the fundamentals correctly is a terrible customer in terms of revenue alone. And so the best customer, and I say this just, thinking of the business of healthcare, I don't take an opinion on this, but the best customer would be one that has a chronic condition, whether it's legitimate or not, that I could give a little pill or something every day for, eternity, and that needs to be paid, compensated, incentivized. I mean, and some of my personal health, I had back pain in my 20s. Turned out I just needed to do yoga and stretch and work out. It was because I was sitting like this, and I was
all day.
Yeah. And I saw a chiropractor. I was getting back scans and taking muscle relaxants, and I was in the system quick, and I just thought that was how to do it. And all I had to do was, work out and stand a little bit more, and maybe a few other changes, and that was it. So it's easy to get sucked in. It's tough. It's tough as the consumer, and then there are
Yeah.
some treatments where you gotta buckle down, but it keeps me motivated. It's just an easy target. Big healthcare is just a kind of like big law. It's just there's plenty of opportunities for improvement, and it just kind of frustrates me to stare at them.
It is. I mean, I was in healthcare before COVID and was in healthcare all of COVID. So me and my chief medical officer, we actually, when we exited the organization, neither one of us returned to healthcare. Actually, telehelping is the closest that I've been to healthcare. We support numerous dental practices, and we still support my previous organization, some other hospital groups. But that's as healthcare as I get, because I mean, it was, man, COVID was a tough time, and it was such a frustrating period of like, this is kind of a rule, it's kind of not a rule, where we did pay for this before, but now we're paying for this now. And so the rules changed every day, right? What you can do, what you can't do. And it made me run from it. And so I was like, oh, you know what, healthcare, you were good to me for several years. And I'm going to hang my hat on that, because I just didn't
Yeah,
see it changing. And for me, it's, man, I was like beating my head against the wall, right? And then, you work in healthcare. So I was in my 20s at the time as an entrepreneur in healthcare, right? You come in this VC back startup, we're going to change your stuff. And they're like, listen, kid, right? The interns are over there. So it was a frustrating time period, but it was, you don't see in other business what you see when you have a positive impact on healthcare. And when you see like patients get what they need, we primarily worked with low income, low resources organizations, mostly with well, now it's called CalAIM, Medi-Cal as previously known.
yeah,
Uh, and it was great when you see some like, wow, this person, right? They needed this medication. We were able to rewrite their script, because sometimes, and it's happened to my wife when she just had her baby, they put her prescription for a medication across town, right, all the way across Vegas. I'm like, okay, so I was like, can you put it to the pharmacy next to our house? They're like, well, you have to go to that pharmacy. We've already written it. And I like thought to myself, I'm like, this is why I started it. This is one of the things we used to fix in my healthcare company. I was like, what if I didn't have a car? What if I didn't have money for the bus fare? Right. And
yeah,
now I'm just going to go without the medication. Like little things like that. It just makes you like grit your teeth in healthcare. So I ran from it.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, here's the deal. I don't think it's all on the payment models, right? There needs to be
Yeah.
some responsibility on the individuals, right? Again, just sleeping well, eating well, and exercising, and kind of keeping an eye on your mindset. These are things that have been around since the dawn of time, but we've kind of forgotten about looking for the silver bullet in the next, whatever supplement or diet
Yeah.
trend or whatever, and it just kind of gets all convoluted. Another thing I'll say, we'll see what you think about this, but I think business owners like us also, if they're being smart, should invest more in their employee wellness. Like we do over here. I literally pay my staff to work out. I say, listen, here's you have an hour, we'll probably be upping it. I want you to just block it off and work out, and you're going to get paid for that. And because I think that they're going to have better, not just productivity for the business, but just their mind, their body, their everything, how they feel about the company as a whole. I think that employers should get a little more involved in the game and not just say, good luck government, or good luck, individual.
Yeah. I love that, David, because and I speak for telehelping corporate. So telehelping my team, right? Our teams that support other organizations, they are in essence adapting to that culture. So they work for us, but really they work for someone else. And
Yeah.
so if they're working for folks like David, great. Occasionally they're not, right? But our folks, I'm very flexible with what I refer to as life, right? And my motto is like, hey, listen, if you're going to be off doing something that you need to do, right? Something that has to be done, right? Just, block it on your calendar, right? I don't want to message you or someone internally trying to get in contact with you thinking you're here, but you're not, right? Make time I tell people, I'm like, make time for midday breaks. Go eat, right? Don't eat at your desk. Go eat at your kitchen table. Go eat outside the park. Go somewhere. Don't stay at your computer all day. Some people will and always will be those type of people, but for the most part, we try to care for the person. I mean, I myself, I try to schedule my gym time every day on my calendar, right? Because it's blocked in there. I'm going to get that. I call it my anti-homicide training. And so I go over there and like I run off and work out the day. But you know, it's something that healthcare needs to be involved with the employer because this is what we spend most of our time doing, working. So if it's not going to be confluent with the healthy living or at least a life worth living, right? That's not glued to a desk, then it's going to be completely working against it the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I'm a big time blocking guy. We live and breathe the G Suite, Google Calendar, time blocking, and really thinking about. I mean, you take it one step further. It's like which parts of the day are you kind of the most ready to interact with people versus which parts of the day do you just want to get down and grind, and maybe you got to take a little hour to kind of recharge midday. We kind of have the luxury where we're transactional. We're not suing people. We're not that kind of firm, so we can really move things around based on deadlines.
One thing I want to touch on before I move into the transactional basis. It's hilarious when you said you're going to a chiropractor and massage and everything. I broke my back in the military and I was like, oh my God, like I was just always used to like, I try to exercise, the more tennis I play, the more I would be, because, you turn the body, you're swinging, I'm always rotating. I'm like, man, I'm so tight in my back. And I go to the chiropractor, he's like, well, have you done like some cat dogs? Right. He's like, just, get the muscles around the back moving in the morning and the evening. I did that in the morning and I do it in the evening, changes my day. Just like that small little thing before, like besides waking up, sitting at the coffee table and then waking up, sitting at my desk, walking my dog and then going to the gym, just getting the things around there moving, it changed it. I think it's a indicator of just life, right? Small changes can have big impacts. So
Yeah,
I wanted to not go away from that because you said that at the beginning. I was thinking about it the entire time. The chiropractor, I don't have to see him anymore. He's giving away business.
yeah, yeah. It might not be the best business model, but I think it's a good health outcomes model, and I mean, I think that's the way it should be. But yeah, it's not easy to stretch in the morning and at night. It's another 5-10 minutes in the day, so I get it. I get it. Got to build the habits around them.
I agree. Tell me, for law firm specifically, you said that, we're not a lot suing people and stuff. What is it that you are doing?
We're doing more. So we are the law firm built for healthcare businesses. I just got that trademark, so no one else can say that. But if you hear anybody, let us know. I don't know what I'd do. Probably just call them and partner. But we only work with healthcare businesses. Period. So this is going to be physicians, therapists, substance use disorder, mental health clinics, assisted living, residential care providers, kind of all those businesses that interact in and around healthcare, and maybe sometimes the investors that come in. And that's it. We don't do, general business law for a car dealership or some, random business. We do a lot of telehealth, very, very close. If I just took your name with telehealth and took out the P, put an A and a TH, telehealth is the cousin. And post-pandemic, healthcare has really gotten heavy on the telehealth game. And so I see a
Oh, yeah.
lot of interstate and even entrepreneurs that are sitting over in Spain or Central America and are still telehealthing into California, Minnesota, New York, Florida, what have you. And I think the pandemic just showed you still can do a lot of effective care remotely. So we work with a lot of them. And it's cool because it's small businesses. I mean, small in the sense of compared to the big health system that you might be
Billion,
used to
yeah.
going to.
No, I love that. It's interesting because telehealth, I came up with the name when we were starting it to support my telehealth business. And that's why I was like, you know what, we're telephonically helping the organization. That's what we do. We're remotely helping it. And what we did is we just did triage. We supported patients after they left the hospital, right? And so I mean, I can probably make a lot of referrals for you actually, because we worked with Hospital Corporation of America, HCA, right? We worked
Yep.
with them in their far west, Midwest, Texas, and Florida districts. And what we primarily did is as patients would leave their hospitals, we would I called it a toll road, right? We would just get them to their primary care, secondary care, specialty care, that first 30 days to make sure, like, did their prescriptions get sent to the right place? Did you go to your primary care? No, you didn't go to your primary care. Stay on the phone. We're going to call your primary care right now and get you booked. Don't have transportation there. We actually will find the free transportation in your local area. So we were really fighting that readmission rate, and we were paid for the performance. But all of our true clients, everyone always looked at us and like, oh, who's your client? Or they'd be like, oh, the hospital. Oh, not at all. Our client was the post discharge community, the primary cares, the specialty cares, and all those organizations, because we were getting them clients,
Yeah.
because that primary care is not getting a billable experience until that patient walks that door and sits into that office. And so, sure, they're getting discharged to them, but they want that person to make it, the butt in the seat, right? And so we were helping out both sides. Hospital was not getting dinged for the readmission. Primary cares were seeing their doctor. Specialty cares were seeing their patients. And it's such an interesting relation, because a lot of them, David, I don't know if they have good lawyers that aren't healthcare focused. I think a lot of them are just using their local law firm or chat GPT nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. People know what a business attorney is. They know what a criminal defense, but a healthcare lawyer or, a business attorney that only does healthcare, it's very rare. There's a lot of business attorneys that will kind of stray into healthcare law. And there's a lot of, little traps of fee splitting and kickbacks and federal laws, state laws. And then you try and go out of the country and it just gets very convoluted. But yeah, no, it's definitely a focused practice area, which makes it easy. I
Yeah.
do. We do about 10 things. We do them really well. It's easy to market, and all the other attorneys and people kind of know who we are. It makes the marketing way easier and the messaging. Here we are. We stay in our lane.
That's so funny you say that, because I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and they're talking about going with a specialty person versus staying with their general. And I made the example. I was like, they're going to know something. And it was one of our clients. And I was like, they're going to know things that you don't know. So I would, it's, if you have an organization, in this particular world, it was accounting. You have an organization that's going to support you in their niche to that industry. Why not use them? Right. I used the example the other day as like, we think we know what we're doing sometimes. And the other day I was painting the pool deck of one of my rental properties, and I bought 2 gallons of light gray outdoor surface paint for the pool decks, gritty stuff so you don't slip. And so I'm painting, I ran out. I'm like, I need one more bucket. Go to Lowe's. I took a photo of it, got, 83070 light gray, came back, throw it on there. I'm painting. And I was sitting there. I was like, well, maybe it looks different because I'm the time of day I'm painting. I was painting at nighttime the day before. And then I was like, okay, it's not a big deal. Turns out I made a small minor error between matte and flat, right? Right. Something that I don't think there's a big difference in. And I
Uh,
didn't see the difference on the page, but that's the difference between having someone who knows healthcare and who doesn't know healthcare. Right. It could be something that applies to you, and it could be something that changes your pool deck to make it look like, pieced together pants.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's like hiring the right architect or building a home. You got to build the foundation. Some of those really big legal decisions are made at the beginning that are kind of hard to change later on the entity selection, who's in and who's out, and just what seemed like pretty basic. Maybe you run it through AI, but it's the long term strategy and even thinking a little bit about exit planning at the beginning that that's worth its weight in gold. And I mean, it'd be like building your house on it's beautiful above the foundation. You've been doing good as a business owner, but that original entity choice and the foundation, the stones are actually crumbling. And now that repair really hurts to do. I got
Yeah.
to prop up the whole house. I got to go in there, remove all the stones, put her back.
Yeah.
So it's it's tough to explain the value to some people. Some people get it. They've done it before. They painted. They hire the experts. They get it. But for others, we don't compete on price, right? I always say that. Like our prices, if you go around, probably, I'm not going to say towards the top, but value, we will always compete on. If there's somebody that you think is doing or offering what we're doing, I always want to take a peek. But not everyone gets that. They don't see value in terms of law. They're kind of used to the old school billing by the hour, Attorneys are kind of an annoying, expensive thing.
Yeah.
We do refundable flat fees. So we say, listen, here's the project, here's the fee. If we don't do what we said we're going to do, you can just call in the refund. So you can think of this more like almost a, it's an investment. I mean, you're going to get it, or we're not allowed to make guarantees. That's, ethics rules, whatever. But we can say we're going to do what we said we're going to do, or you get a refund. That is totally allowed, and that's what we do.
Well, one thing I wanna jump to as well, as you said, because a lot of the folks who listen to this podcast, you poor people listening to me all the time, but a lot of the folks listening to this podcast, they're either just starting a business, want to be entrepreneurs, and so you said something that I just want to park on for a second, and you talked about the foundation, right? You talked about you said even maybe an exit, right? And I thought about even like partnership disputes, right? Little things like that that I don't think people consider when they're like, "Hey, David, you, me, brother, let's start this practice, right? We're good buddies right now. Things are going well. Let's throw some money in together and let's see how it goes." People don't think about how that could turn out, because I've had some horrible partnership disputes that have come down to the articles of incorporation.
Yeah, it's it's like getting married. So, you would consider a prenup, or at least you'd probably date or screen your partner a little bit. And usually, with a friend owner, I see it all the time, the friendly owner, the friend, best friends in college, high school, whatever. It's very different to be a friend with someone versus a business owner. There's trust underlying in any relationship, but when money starts coming in, people behave very differently. So I say, you wouldn't get married haphazardly, I would hope, but in the same sense, don't start a business and get married in a business sense just like that. And I've seen, there's like 4 or 5 owners, and it's like, yeah, let's go. All right. What are we doing? Well, we're going to do a $1 million round. Just like, it's like, okay, well, hey, do you guys have an ownership agreement? If this doesn't play out, no, we'll get to that later. Don't worry. And it's like, holy smokes. I would, you know, if I was parking any of my money anywhere, I'd want to know how the rules would play out if things didn't go well. Maybe not just a dispute, but what if one of the guys gets in a car accident, or says, you know what, I met the love of my life personally, not professionally. I'm going to go travel and I just want out. It's not that I don't like you guys. I just I just want to do a quick buyout here. So having that roadmap available, it's tough to pitch to people who haven't been through a business divorce, or, maybe a
Yeah.
personal divorce of sorts, to say, listen, this is why we do this. But it's so critical, absolutely critical at the beginning. It's not something you want to throw money at if you're cash strapped, but gosh, I mean, if you can just get something in place, please
You
get those
know,
fundamentals.
it's interesting you say that, and keeping all the details. I recently spoke to an individual who owns an organization, a client of ours, and he is like, well, in this particular, he's the physician of the organization, and where he works, he requires a professional license. He has someone who we partner with, who we will consider more of the general administration, not licensed, but we'll call them the practitioner in this particular. They're like a physician assistant in this case. So they built a company together, and the physician, the licensed person, owns about 30% of the business. And we're chatting offline about this. And he's like, yeah, eventually a couple years down the road, I'm going to go off and I'm just going to start my own practice. And then, they'll still use my license and everything here. I'm going to be their signing authority, and it's going to be great. And I said, I'm like, oh, I'm like, it's just going to be great. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, are you going to, you guys live in the same city? I'm like, are you going to be a competing practice for them? So, have you thought about that thing? He's like, well, I'll put it far enough away where it's not an issue. Or I was like, well, these are good conversations that maybe have had earlier on, because if you worked with me and we had a good business going, and you're like, hey, listen, I want to keep getting my 30% of this business, but I'm going to go off and start a competing business that I'm going to own 100% of. It sounds like there's going to be some conflict of interest there that is going to need to be addressed. And so I'm like, just throwing it out there years in advance for you. People don't think about that. And what you're saying is it's better to think about that. Have the conversation, see how people react in the beginning, write it down, prenup it. So that way, if you do want to travel the world, it's not like, whoa, 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 I'm not going to pay you 30% while you're in Barcelona. I'm doing all the work. And so, because those are going to happen. Things like that happen.
Yeah, yeah. I just throw a large dollar amount, 10 mil, 1 mil, 100 mil, whatever. And I say, listen, that amount of money is coming in. Okay. Now there's the two of you. What are you doing? How does it hypothetically get split up? And let's say, one of the 5 most common separation things happens. How would it play out hypothetically? It's probably like the tough conversations you probably have with a personal relationship or a personal partner is just putting it all on the table, building that trust, having the tough conversations. It's going to pay dividends later because you've already pre-mapped out, all right, we are making 10 mil or 100 mil, and we didn't really revisit this ownership agreement, but we have a nice clause that we can all live with on how it plays out if we're feeling the tension and we are in a dispute type mode or a catastrophe. Somebody got injured, somebody got in a car accident, somebody wants out for reasons unrelated. You're right on point. Hopefully that the physician kind of has that tough conversation. They're not easy to have,
No.
and sometimes you're 2 feet in or you're a few steps in. Still okay to have it now. We don't have to wait. It's okay to be the one that initiates the conversation. And the approach to that conversation is key, right? There's different approaches, and finessing that and seeing it as an opportunity to just, hey, listen, like I'm invested in this, but let's start thinking about this like a real, $10 million business or 100 million. We would have already thought about exit planning. So let's just clean that up right now before. I'm not saying I
Mm,
want out. This is listen, what if somebody else is coming in or both of us want out and we want to sell, and how do we value it and actually go through that process together?
no, I like that. And really sage point there. It's, my wife and I, we own some restaurants, and our general manager and chef, when we decided to let him take over, I was like, hey, like, this is how it's going to be. This is going to be the waterfall of his equity. Like, and if he leaves early, he gets nothing. He leaves early, he's on a non-compete in the general vicinity of our facilities for certain members. She's like, and she was like, all these details, they may scare him away. I'm like, better to scare him away now than scare him away later on when he has all of our eggs in his basket. So that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Well, and I love getting creative with incentivizing staff or employees,
Oh, yeah, me
and
too.
with equity in a legal way. It can get fun. It's smart. It's smart to have
Yeah.
something that puts the relationship, and we say, listen, loyalty should be rewarded. Here's what that could look like together.
Yeah. That's interesting you said, because one thing I've been thinking about with our organization at Telehelping is creating an incentivization, an equity style plan. However, that really isn't a thing in Mexico. And so, and that's where the employer organization is, the parent organization is the United States, which, obviously has those equity plans. So we're looking at more like a closeout revenues type thing. It's like, hey, listen, hey, if the organization sells, you'll get X times your years with us, so on and so forth. And it's because ultimately there's people who've been with us for years now. I want them to stay with us for years more, right? But ultimately, I have an exit in mind. Like, I eventually want to blow this popsicle stand, right? Like, I'm obsessed with the startup, right? After I think this probably has me for a good 8 years, maybe. I like it. And so I say 8 years, 5 years is usually my cap. And so we'll go from there. But no, I think it's a brilliant way to look at it, David. Before I shift gears, I want to, I don't want to go too far down the line. You're a dad, right? There's a whole human back here. We got so caught up with healthcare and legal,
Yeah.
right? David, outside of work, are you an avid golfer, tennis player? Do you play sports for your kids? What goes on in the real world?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got an 8-year-old son, Milo. He's awesome. He's out here with me in California. He should be at a pool right now, hanging out. He Yeah, he's taught me a lot about a work-life balance, right? You have your first kid and you really change your perspective on, all right,
Mhm.
listen, we got to hold the boundaries. Yeah, I mean, outside of law and another startup and a couple properties, I mean, I'm working out, love to cold plunge. Golfing, I'm still working on my golf game. I should be a little bit better. I finally have implemented my philosophy in business now with my golfing, where I'm getting lessons and treating it a little more seriously, not just kind of a, see what happens and, be chasing balls every single hole. So getting a little bit better there.
So you cold plunge though, and so
Yes,
I'll be
huge
honest
fan.
with you. I just went to, and I have a bunch of buddies who cold plunge, and I have, coming from the special operations side of the military. I love doing extreme sports to an extreme level. Like if you want me to run, I want to run. We were playing tennis. We're playing tennis like someone's dying afterwards. All right, I want to play the sport. And I've never done the cold plunge, but I do take cold showers. So
Yeah.
like, talk to me about that, because they have a cold plunge pool at Costco that keeps looking me in the eye.
I'm a fan. I got my own little kind of pool. I mean, you look at the statistic just for your health alone, right? Cold shower, great. I mean, that's good. Check the box. We're good to go there. Plus, I mean, if everyone did cold showers, right, we'd be saving utility bills and all sorts of fun stuff. But really good for your health. My energy goes up. I can say every time you turn the dial, I don't know about you in your cold shower, your body doesn't really want to do it, but the mindset around it, I mean, yes, there's all the physical benefits, but if I can go in an ice hole in Minnesota and sit in 33 degree, 34-degree water for 7 minutes or 10 minutes, what what won't you do, right? So what else have I been putting off where I'm just like, okay, let's go, let's jump in the ice water. So I actually like the energy and also the mindset that it cultivates, that then you can bring into other aspects of your life. So I'm a huge fan. But when I'm walking up to the ice hole in the middle of January in Minnesota, I'm not, yeah, let's go. You kind of gotta get
Do
over that every
this.
single time.
Well, I've done the polar bear plunges and things like that, and my biggest thing is, I had to look at the box and everything. Do you have like an ice machine? Like, where the hell do you get all the ice from?
Yeah. So I've started to kind of jerry rig one. So it's like you can think of it as a kid's pool, but it's larger. And you throw water in there and you can do ice blocks. That's one way, right? You can also, I have an old freezer that I've now started to line and put the water in. The annoying thing, which is why I'm probably just going to switch to going to a local, well, our Lifetime has, our gym has cold plunging, but also there's a nice little kind of more social sauna and cold plunges that are opening up. And so just joining one of those is cleaning the water. If you're going to actually do it right and keep an eye on it, make sure the bacteria isn't getting out of control, you got to clean your own water and filter that. That's annoying. Maybe the Costco one has already figured that out and it just self cleans. That would be
Yeah.
a good one to buy. But, it's not fun. I do have an outdoor sauna too. So I do the sauna and the hot cold therapy. Love it. Absolutely love it for energy and just social. You get a couple friends or whatever and you're kind of going in and out, especially in the winter. It's just fun.
Yeah, I want to get a infrared sauna, because I'm the type of person, I take vitamins 3 times a day, and so depending on
Yeah,
what
I
it
got a
is,
few right there.
I take I take my multis, I take my omega 3s, then my magnesiums and omega 3s at dinner and stuff before bed, and so I'm also all about the health thing, which is hilarious because my wife, she loves the idea of it opposite though. She's like, "Oh, I'm tired, I'm sore from my workout." I'm like, "Great, we need to look at your vitamin intake." Last night I was talking to her about that and like the recovery process. And she's like, "I'll take the day off because I'm tired." I'm like, "Actually, we got to push through this, and then you'll have more energy on the other side."
Yeah, it's tough. You're getting around the mindset. I'm big on vitamins, and I mean, to the personal, hobbies and what have you. I'm a Minnesota boy. I just escaped to California honestly because the winters are harsh. I mean, there's no fancy reason why I picked California. It's just because it's warm, and I like to travel, but also up in Minnesota we have a cabin. So you go up north.
Yeah.
There's nature, and when I'm out there, I love to, it's water skiing, it's swimming, it's you're out in nature hiking around. So actually using more, we'll just say, hobby like activities to keep the physical activity going. One of the things that I struggled with, still struggle with in my 20s and early 30s was, I travel all these places. You go to the cabin, you're out in California, you're going international, but my diet, boom,
Yeah.
the workouts, goodbye, the
Out the
sleep,
door.
who knows? So just keeping those a little bit elevated as I travel, as I move, especially with the son too. You probably get it as a parent. You gotta keep that consistency, and it's not like you can
Yeah.
just take a week off every other week when you're traveling.
Well, I mean, so we live in Cabo San Lucas, and so we just moved back, and man, that 3 or so week period of, I was coming back and forth, everyone was moving. My family was so distraught, right? I was like, hey, did we brush his teeth? I'm not sure if we did. Yeah, I'll get him in the morning. He's already asleep, right? Like, did we read before we go to bed? Like all those things, like, hell, screw working out. I didn't get to work out. I didn't get to play tennis. I haven't played tennis in a month. And so I'm finally, now this week is the first week where I'm like, okay, we are getting a schedule and we're sticking to it, because when you are traveling, and one of my buddy Rudy Reyes, huge health nut. He'd always say to me, he's like, Cody, he travels everywhere as an actor and military influencer. He said, there's like, the gym's a mindset, it's not a place. All right. And so he's like, where we live is here, not where we live in this world. I'm like, okay, calm down, Buddha. And so, so reel it in for me. And for him, because he's like, if I use traveling as an excuse, he's like, I'd always have an excuse, right? And he's like, so he always has this mentality, like no matter where he is, he stays on schedule. And I started applying that to traveling. So when we started driving down, stopping every hour, doing squats at gas stations, right? When we were driving down the Baja Peninsula, you're in the ocean the entire time. So we went swimming twice. We got out, jumped into the ocean, swam on the side of the road because it's just the coast. And you work those things in. I think one thing we could both agree on, David, if you work it in, if you wanted to work it in, they have a saying in Mexico, it's el que puede, el que quiere puede, he who wants will, right? And so if you want it, you will it. And so I think that's the biggest thing about health, because, I'll quote, a really wonderful woman once. She said, health is one of those things you never think about until you don't have it. And so,
Yeah,
and then all the money in the world can't get it for you. So
yeah,
start thinking about it now.
yeah. It's an investment. You're nothing without good health. I've worked with clients that, um, well, before I worked with healthcare providers, I was working with patients, and it's like cancer patients. We're negotiating medical bills, we're fighting appeals, and it's just such a bummer when without your health, you just there's nothing. It's tough to work. It's tough to be in relationships, to love, to just to get around. If you're nothing,
Yeah.
and you don't think about it, you take it for granted until it's gone. I like you said you were doing the squats at gas stations. I work with a trainer, and I kind of we've had the discussion 100 times. Hey, I'm traveling out to California. Okay, what should I do? I got the app, right? We're gonna, and he's and I'll occasionally weave in what sounds like an excuse, and he'll say, well, can you do some squats? Can you do some yeah, I can do. Okay, well, you're good. You don't need any equipment. We can just get the bare minimum here, and then we can layer on from there. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. That's just my mind trying to figure out how to kind of weasel out of it.
No, and I think one of the biggest things that we can take from this, especially as we wind down, is it's about, my the intent of it. There's so much in our conversation that talks about the intent, whether
Yeah.
it's towards your health or whether it's towards the intent that you have for a business as it grows, right? And I think that if you identify why you're wanting to do something and why it's important, right? Then the actions along the way they're just stepping stones, little footholds to where you're trying to achieve, whether it's like, hey, I want to have a fairly defined relationship as we go through this partnership, or hey, I'd like to be able to pick up my grandkids when I'm older, right? Because they say what people over 70, most of them have problems standing up and sitting down, right? Do you want to be that person, right? And so the answer is no for everybody. You don't want to be that person, you know spoiler alert. And so you don't have to be intense. You don't have to go cold plunging, polar bear over here, like Mr. Minnesota Viking.
Yeah.
But you definitely can do some stuff. And no, I love it, David. And, I appreciate you taking your time to chat with me. I know we were originally going to be talking in July, but after our introduction call, I was like, I want to talk to this guy early. And so I want to talk to him this week. And so I'm glad we're able to move things around, sir. I hope the rest of your travels go well. And I appreciate you joining me on my podcast today.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Thanks so much for hosting. Really appreciate it.
Be well, David.
This video was brought to you by our official sponsor, Tella Health. Need support for your business? Tella Health connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.